Welcome everyone to an XpoNorth I am so excited about. We have Monica here joining us from Australia. So it's morning my time. I just wanted to let you know, evening her time. Hi, Monica.
Hi, that explains the why.
It does, and my team. And Monica's from Creative Plus
Yeah,
Business. It is something that here at XpoNorth we're huge fans of. You guys are dedicated to helping creative people go into business for themselves, basically be creative, make money, and especially you love what you do. Is that right?
that's right. Exactly right.
Monica, that's so cool. Can you explain just right off the bat a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So I started my professional career as a filmmaker and a writer. I did not ever intend to be in business, nor did I ever intend to help other people to be in business at all. But I started freelancing when I was in my late teens, both as a freelance journalist and in crew roles on music videos, short films, and so on. I studied at film school. And when I graduated from film school, after a few little bits and pieces of work, I directed a feature film,
Oh, wow.
which I then got royally screwed on because I signed a really bad contract. And that was a real moment for me of realizing that my creativity, my artistic practice, my talent, my training, none of that was ever going to matter if I didn't know how to sign a contract, or if I didn't know how to send an invoice, or if I didn't understand what my rights and responsibilities were. I didn't, and
Monica, I can imagine how frustrating that was to sign a contract that wasn't good, especially feature film is a huge undertaking. Congratulations for making one. So,
thank you. It was a gigantic big deal, but it all fell apart. And so I realized that I had a gap in my own knowledge, massive gaps in my own knowledge. I started educating myself, going to small business classes, and it was so boring, and not designed for creative professionals at all. And I think it was probably about 1996, I had a moment of epiphany when I was thinking, you know what, I really need a business workshop or a business course specifically designed for creatives. Oh, crap. I think I'm going to have to be the person who creates that because there isn't one. And that was the beginning of the journey. So I did that. I always helped other people informally in tandem with my film and writing career. But then when I could see the kind of tidal wave of need for what had originally just started as something that I needed, I realized that so many creative practitioners needed it. So I closed my film production company down, and 5 years ago I started Creative Plus Business, and that's all we do. We educate creative people about business.
that's amazing. Do you find, okay, I have so many questions. So before we actually jump into that, do you find you're actually attracting people who aren't creatives, but from the business side, being like, we want to know if the creative industries is an industry?
Well, one of the things I was really keen on was making sure that it was fun, because I didn't want it to be boring. I think a lot of creative practitioners are turned off the idea of learning about business because it's dull. So I've worked really, really hard, and now I have a team of 15 people, and we all work really, really hard to make sure that everything that we do is fun and colorful and groovy, and so the creative people feel safe and warm, and they're not going to feel like the weirdos in suit world. It's more like, no, come into our world and we'll teach you how to speak suit. That'll be fine. Which means people are very attracted to that. We get phone calls all the time from people saying, well, I'm a plumber, but I really need help with my business. And we say, well, I'm sorry, we don't help plumbers, but I'm a creative plumber. Like, no, dude, I'm sorry. You're trying really hard to get into our incredibly cool club, but you're not welcome.
Yeah.
You'll have to go to plumbing land to go over there, which, from an economic point of view, probably it sounds mad to be limiting the market so much, but it's worked. It's really worked.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so fantastic. I mean, you're probably dealing with a lot of people like myself that have been told that creative people are not good at business. So I have this thing that I'm carrying around being like, I guess I'm just not good at business. Clearly that's totally
Yeah.
wrong. Creative people are so smart. I'm sure they can wrap their head around
Oh,
business.
100%. And I know exactly why people get told that. One, the traditional way in which business or anything linear like math is taught is not conducive to the creative ways of learning. creative people in general learn best from storytelling, pictures, and kinesthetic activities, actually doing something, moving around the room. So a lot of creative people, for example, will learn best whilst also drawing. When I'm working with dancers, I don't make them sit down. They just roam the room, absorbing information as they move.
Fantastic.
Well, because that's how they learn, right? What traditional education has usually done is restricted the way creative people learn by not letting them do the things that they need to do to absorb information. And we're told that we're not good at it, even though we're never really given a chance. And then we're just not taught anything. So we never get taught anything about business at school, or we don't get taught it as part of our creative professional learning. And I don't know what it's like in other countries, but here in Australia, if you're in sort of early to mid high school and you choose creative subjects, that usually means you can't choose business and economics subjects. They're almost always programmed at the same time. So even within the framework of how education is created, they'll put small business and visual art classes on at the same time, because the entire system thinks that we won't ever want that information. So it's not our fault. But what I find really interesting is how many people carry a lot of shame about that.
Yeah, totally.
Lots of shame. I'm ashamed because I don't know how to do this. And I always think, well, I don't know how to drive a tractor, but I'm not ashamed about it. No one's ever taught me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably suck at it, but teach me first, and then let's decide whether or not I suck.
I think that's a great attitude, genuinely, because there is a lot of shame around it. And I think it has to do with money and being able to support yourself. And then also in the creative industries, having to ask for money for investors. There's a lot of discomfort people feel around that. So I want to go into your course offering and a little bit about what these courses look like, but I have to ask first because it's just popped into my head. I know the intention of people going there is to learn about how to kind of create their own business and to be a little bit more robust on the business side of things in the creative industries, but you're getting a lot of creative people from different disciplines together in one place. Interesting things must happen. Do you get actually collaborations?
Oh, all the time. We insist on it. We will very, very rarely stay within what I call the ghetto of profession, because it doesn't help us to generate any opportunities if we're just talking to other people. I mean, we're talking to our peers, certainly, but we could easily refer to those people as competitors. And yeah, so it's a far richer experience to bring a filmmaker and a graphic designer and a choreographer together to learn about business than 3 graphic designers. So yeah, collaborations, friendships, marriages, like it's like a great big hothouse of fabulous. It's really great,
So when you first started, the intention of what kind of courses you thought people might like versus what you're offering now, what have you learned along the way, and what kinds of courses do you think are really popular and important?
Most of the people that we're talking to are freelance or kind of early stage practitioners. So the basic courses that we offer are the most popular. But with COVID happening, we had to move everything online. So we weren't as able to run kind of long deep dive or retreat based workshops that we'd run previously. Everything had to be shorter. So we've now devised 26 2-hour workshops. We took a whole lot of different stuff and just broke it all down into parts. And we're really just experimenting to see what people like. Probably the most popular one that we have at the moment is how to price.
Oh, interesting.
And what to charge, because that is a very frustrating and fraught topic for all creative practitioners. But yeah, all of our marketing courses are really popular, and all of our financial literacy programs are also really popular, which is kind of ironic in a way, but people really know that they need to learn it. And then when the word on the street is, no, it's fine, you'll laugh, there's interpretive dance, it'll be fun, people kind of relax a little bit, because what they're really worried about is that they'll be made to feel more ashamed of what they don't know. And we will never, ever do that. Ever.
Is it hard to translate that fun online on these online courses?
a different kind of delivery. I'm a very I have a performance background as well, so I like being on stage. I'm very physical. I like moving around, and you can already see I'm doing all the hand gestures. And I wasn't joking about interpretive dance. If I have to, I'll bust it out. So this frame is slightly more contained, but because I'm a filmmaker, I'm very, very comfortable inside this space. So really, I've just been crafting everything as if it was a reasonably long film.
Right.
And it needs to have all the same peaks and troughs. It needs to have the 3-act structure. It needs to have a conclusion. I realized that, our workshops have become very popular, but partly because I think we've been crafting them like a movie.
Yeah.
Not a very interesting
awesome.
movie.
I really want to take some of these courses, Monica. I think
manage your expectations. It's the most boring movie you've ever been to in your life, but it's still like a movie,
It's fabulous. And I just have to say how much I like your earrings. Sorry, this is like
yes,
but they are so
this is
fabulous.
to help people understand how much fun they're going to have. These are made by one of my clients, Jeff McCann, who makes all of his work out of cardboard, as you can see. So I know they're very fabulous.
They are wonderful. So can we dive into the COVID elephant in the room?
Okay.
When we're talking about, especially now, where all around the world, in Scotland, where you are, in Australia, the creative industries are being seriously hit by COVID, and actually the lack of government strategies about how to be sensitive to the creative industries and understand what's needed, I think is highlighted at times of stress like this. So can you talk a little bit about what's going on there and how you guys are approaching it?
Australia's been incredibly fortunate by global comparison. I think we're doing less well than New Zealand, but that's really still saying something. And of course, it's because we're an island nation. But Melbourne, in particular, has just come out of lockdown. They've been in lockdown for 6 months. Things are starting to pick back up again, but it has really highlighted the chasm between the value that creative practitioners think they are offering the world and the value that is perceived, particularly at the government level. And where we sit, we try and raise awareness of what we're doing by always talking about economics, which is so super boring. But I've just found I get more traction when I talk to politicians and funding organizations and investors when I talk about economic impact, because if I start talking about cultural and social impact, I feel the eyes starting to roll. And we've had a few experiences here. For example, our Prime Minister a couple of months ago said, now infamously, you don't create jobs by sitting around watching television. To which the entire screen industry said, hello, it's not magical pixies that live in your television that just create that for you. Like, people made that, So I think there's still a real chasm there about the value of what we do and what we create. There's a real fundamental misunderstanding of the economic impact that we have and the gearing effect that a single practitioner can have on an entire business ecosystem. If one band can't play at the pub on a Friday night, then no one comes to the pub.
Yeah.
All the people that provide the lighting and the effects and everything, they've got nothing to do. The DJ that follows on after the band, he can't do his job. The gearing effect of when things are going well, I think it's up to 9 times, that every dollar that is generated by a creative practitioner is, 9 times multiplied within the wider economy around that practitioner. So the knock-on effect has been really amazing. But it's frustrating for us watching so many practitioners not only lose their revenue and lose their businesses to an extent, but also suddenly feel that no one cares.
Yeah, quite right.
And people in lockdown here and all over the world were watching movies and reading books and listening to music and podcasts and actually interacting with with the outcomes and results of creative practice all of the time.
Yeah.
But again, for some reason, thinking that that was all made by magical pixies who don't require payment, which is really problematic. I think that is actually something that's been occurring all over the world, but I feel like it's pretty bad here.
Yeah, you know, I just want to highlight what you just said about the kind of interdependency that a lot of the economies have, where I think you could argue that the creative industries are the nexus of an ecosystem. So, you know,
100%.
we were talking to someone who deals in insurance for creative industries the other week, and he said that actually film is recovering faster because the government sees that, at least the Scottish government sees that as one of their largest exports. And I thought, well, that's very interesting because the majority of the exports in terms of film that are done through Scotland are adaptations. So how is, you know, how is the, you know, how is the book industry recovering, the publishing industry recovering in Scotland? And then you think, well, you're going to have to house folks if you want shoots to happen again. So what's happening with the hospitality industry? And you can keep on going on and on like that.
And you keep going and going. Exactly right. You know, that it really is really quite extraordinary. If you were to ever draw a diagram of that ecosystem and you put one filmmaker or one graphic designer or one musician in the center of that web and then trace all of the different interactions that happen, it's really quite extraordinary, you know. But having said that, I mean, if you're going to really punch an industry in the face, you know, punch the arts, really, because, you know, we're all being constantly told to pivot.
Yeah, totally.
Pivot's a dance term.
Yes.
All right. We all know how to pivot. I can do a pivot with a step ball change and some jazz hands before you've had to say the words. Okay. We know all about pivoting. We're all about overcoming challenges. That's what creativity is.
Quite right.
Creativity is the process of conjuring up something where there was previously nothing, or taking a thing that isn't working and making it work. We're great. God, we're great. And our clients, I mean, we've got about 1,000 clients who see us for personalized advice and support. And the incredible stuff that they're doing.
Oh, that's hopeful. That's really good.
The resilience. Oh my God. And so resilient and so charming and happy. And, you know, I do think that in order to create a business in creative practice, you do need to be a bit of a cockeyed optimist. I just don't think you could do it otherwise, you know. You kind of need to have an optimistic faith that everything will be okay. And, you know, and faith is a belief, absolute belief in the absence of evidence.
Yes.
So it doesn't really matter what you believe in, but just this incredibly optimistic belief that everything will probably be okay. It's really quite remarkable. I mean, I think as well that creative businesses are like any small business and they experience the roller coaster. But in our case, because we are the drama queens of small business, our roller coaster has to be much more dramatic, right? So our peaks are much higher and our troughs are much lower. So we're kind of used to this. Well, this year has been remarkably bad. But in terms of peaks and troughs, it's just a bigger trough.
Yes, that's right.
You know?
And we're due a peak.
We'll do a peak. There'll be a peak later because of cockeyed, faith-based optimism in whatever. Who cares? It'll be fine. You know, let's keep dancing. Let's keep pivoting.
So what is next for a Creative Plus business?
Well, I basically get up every day and put on my spangly hustle pants to hustle for money, because that's my main job is to create resources that creative people don't actually have to pay for.
Yes.
I want other people to pay for it. So my job is to go out into the world every day and find other people who might be willing to pay for something that creative practitioners are going to use, because we're a social enterprise, and that's part of our purpose, is to ensure that money is never an obstacle for a creative practitioner who needs to learn something about business. So what's next for me is trying to find more people and organizations and governments and investors who are very interested in my hustling
Mhm.
and can see the benefit of helping self-employed creative practitioners to get back up on their feet again. Because when creative businesses start to operate again, and when freelance creatives start to get back up on their feet again, as we were saying, the gearing effect of that is actually going to elevate entire industries.
Yeah, that's so true. And do you know, I really hate to wrap up our interview because we're all such fans. I have to say this at XpoNorth of your work and what you
Oh, you're
do.
so lovely. Thank
Um,
you. That's so sweet.
watching, give this lady money so that she can keep
Oh,
on
yes,
doing what she's doing.
please. Absolutely. They're very nice hustle pants. I will do all of the hustling for you in order to ensure that this occurs.
That's so good. Do you know, I hope there's a course on hustling because I think that also is really going to be very helpful for the creative industries.
I think so. We're launching a new one at the end of the year called Pitch Face, which I'm very excited about,
Yes.
which is about pitching and hustling. And we called it Pitch Face. I couldn't help it. It was just too good a name. So
That's so great.
dying to be used. That's basically, it was begging me. So,
Oh, Monica, that's brilliant. Okay, so before we go, we always end with a little bit of advice. So something that you've either learned along the way or that you find very helpful, someone's told you, but you use kind of as a touchstone.
um, well, I know exactly what it is. Well, Picasso was a very problematic human being, but he did say one very famous thing, which I live by, and it's on my desk next to, and I think about it all the time. Every act of creation begins with an act of destruction.
I just got the chills. That's so interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to make something new happen for yourself, anything new, and you're already at capacity, then you have to be willing to destroy or kill something else. You have to make choices about what you're willing to give up in order to create a space for something new. And I live every day by that. In economic terms, it's called opportunity cost, but it's the same idea. You can't keep squashing more and more things into a finite time space. We've only got 24 hours in a day, and some of that has to be for sleeping and clearly for drinking wine. So with the capacity that you have and the time that you have, the mental and emotional and intelligent, intellectual space that you have, what do you have to give up in order to make something new? I think that's something that I think about all the time.
Oh God, that's huge. It's like the physics of creation. I really like that.
Right? I know. It's so useful because then I think, why can't I squash 40 hours worth of work into an 8-hour day? Why? Oh, because that's not possible. Okay, so what am I willing to give up? And it really helps me to prioritize, and it really helps me to think about return on investment. Creative practitioners are incredibly hard workers. If you're an incredibly hard worker and you've got a really clearly defined goal, you can still end up going astray if you're not thinking about return on investment. So what kind of return would I like to see for my hard work and for my time and my energy and my creativity and my intelligence? It's not just about working hard towards a goal. It's about thinking about, is this the most efficient way for me to get there? What do I need to destroy in order to create some more room for the things that I want?
That's so powerful. I have to say that's so powerful. I'm going to be taking that with me and thinking about that because there's something about the power of paying attention. You can't pay attention to everything. And it's really about focusing and allowing yourself to have the energy to do well what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And be willing to kill some things and
Totally.
destroy some things and to give some things up, because you don't have to do all of the things all of the time.
No.
Some things sometimes you can just focus on a couple of things that you want to do well.
Monica, thank you so much. This has been a joy. I really would love to
Thanks,
get you
Jessica.
to Scotland, but we'll check back to see how you're doing as things progress.
Please do. And as soon as I'm allowed to get on a plane and come out of my country and go to other countries, I'll come and visit you in real life.
Cannot wait for that. And we'll include some links below for more information. Monica, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.